This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week. It's Rutland Radio at breakfast time. I'm Rob Pisani. Now, this area is no stranger to the odd earth tremor, but just imagine if we had an earthquake which left our buildings devastated with people with no homes. That, of course, happened in Nepal. It was the 25th of April, and there's very much community and house and facility rebuilding that's still going on, and money is still needed. With me this morning is Helen Walton, who's part of the group who've said basically that churches in Stamford could lend a hand with this. How did this all start?
Hello, Rob. Well, I work for the Leprosy Mission of England and Wales, and our campaign for the World Leprosy Day, which is January through to April, we wanted to basically rebuild Nepal. Lots of homes of those affected with leprosy in Nepal were devastated in the earthquake. Over 1 million homes were either destroyed or very, very badly damaged, leaving people, especially those affected with leprosy, with absolutely nothing. They were given tarpaulin sheets to live under for a while, but they weren't sufficient. They still live in tin sheet sort of sheds at the moment, but you can imagine it's freezing in Nepal. So, yeah, we are speaking to churches and individuals to donate money to raise enough funds for us to rebuild homes in Nepal. And it only costs £2,500 to rebuild an earthquake-resistant home with disability facilities for those affected with leprosy.
You talk a lot about leprosy there. That's not something that people would, first of all, identify with what happened at the earthquake.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, and myself included, before I started working for the Leprosy Mission, thought that this was a disease that sort of died out thousands of years ago. But no, leprosy is still very much a neglected tropical disease. Every 2 minutes, someone is diagnosed with leprosy. It's just a mildly infectious disease that stops feelings in the hands and feet. But it's easily curable with the multi-drug therapy. So we're very much fundraising as well to reach out to give people the opportunity to have this cure.
So this is churches all over Stamford who are coming together, as well as all over the country. But in the Stamford area, the ambition was to raise enough money to build an earthquake-resistant house. That's gone a bit further than that now.
Yes, the wonderful churches in Stamford, the clergy are just saying, yes, of course, Helen, we want to rebuild a home in Nepal. And then, you know, some of them said, well, why don't we just do a few houses? And then one or two said, I can see a Stamford street happening. And I just thought, how wonderful to do God's work. So we're raising money as churches together to help those affected with leprosy in Nepal. We can make a difference, and we can really help establish a family back into their home.
What sort of things are the churches getting involved with to actually raise that money?
All the churches are doing their own thing. Some are having individual collections on a Sunday. Others are thinking about fundraising activities that they can do. So each church is operating separately. But I've had wonderful individuals coming up to me and saying, Helen, this means so much to me, because maybe their aunt or their grandparents used to give to the Leprosy Mission, that they've come in with very, very generous donations.
So if people would like to make an individual donation, how can they do that?
The best way is to contact me at the Leprosy Mission by emailing, and it's helenw@tlmew.org.uk. Or they can just ring through to the Leprosy Mission in Peterborough, and the phone calls will go through to me.
Helen Walton, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio. So really between now and April, there's so many different projects, and I hope you'll keep us up to date with the total as well. It sounds really exciting to know that our area can make a huge difference to an area that's had just the worst devastation.
Yeah, Rob, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be here on Rutland Radio, and I'd love to keep you updated, and together we will make a difference.
This is Rutland Radio.
Hannah, Tilly, Josh, James.
And which school are you from?
Rutland Academy.
And whereabouts are you today, where I'm speaking to you?
At Casterton College, Rutland.
Why were you here?
To watch Toad of Total.
How was it?
It was really funny.
Did it kind of remind you of your productions and stuff?
Yeah, a bit.
In what way?
Because it looked quite scary, like going up in front of loads of people and everything.
So that was their first performance before their mums and dads come and see it. Is it ready, do you think, to show them?
Yeah, I think it's ready.
What was your favourite bit?
Probably when they were going back to try and rescue Toad's house.
And what about in your next stage? Because I guess, you'll be going on to maybe here or somewhere different.
Yeah.
And would you like to get involved with stuff like that?
Yes.
Does it make you wish you were just a little bit older?
A bit.
Well, thanks very much for coming along. So did everyone enjoy it, do you reckon?
Yeah.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
I'm Toby and I'm Mole.
I'm Callum and I'm Toad.
I'm Harry and I'm Rat.
And I'm Hannah and I'm Badger.
Did anyone here in the cast see the Tolthorpe version of this, Wind in the Willows? I guess it's a slightly different production.
I think there's actually someone in the cast who is doing it. I think so. There's a few people that I know that go to this school that do Tolthorpe as well, but I know I'm not.
Fantastic. Just seeing you on stage, the presence. What brilliant audience as well, having the primary schools here.
Yeah, I always really like the matinee because all the kids are always really enthusiastic about it, and it's always really nice. It's really good practice as well for drama students because all of us are drama students. So having a big audience, it's really good, and it kind of gives you that thrill.
So what about Toad of Toad Hall? How does that kind of differ to Wind in the Willows? Can you tell us broadly what it's about without giving the game away?
Well, Toad of Toad Hall is basically all of Toad, so what Toad gets up to, all his antics, all his friends. I haven't really looked at Wind in the Willows, but I guess it differs slightly because it's more of a broad, and then Toad of Toad Hall is the specific scenes and everything. So, yeah, it's different, but, you have to wait and see.
How does it feel actually playing characters based on animals?
It's interesting because you have to study the animals first, or I did anyway, and I looked at how they acted, and then obviously you have to try and not be so human, so you can't say things like stuff like that.
Because animals don't...
Yeah, animals don't
And how do you feel with opening night coming up actually to show your parents?
Well, it's quite nervous actually because this is my first one of them, and it's quite a hard play to come into because if it was some other plays we do, I don't know, they're more realistic, but this one's completely over the top and everything. And yeah, so when they see it, it's going to be a little bit scary.
How many nights are you doing?
It's just 2, yeah.
Thursday, Friday this week?
Yeah.
Break a leg, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio. You really look fabulous on that stage, it looks great.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Peter Davis, Director of Music at Oakham School.
Emma Farmer.
Edward Aldous.
Now, tell us about the chamber choir. It's one of several choirs at the school.
We have 5 choirs of all ages in the school, about nearly 300 pupils singing in choirs, basically, but the chamber choirs are selective, sort of most senior choir, normally up to about 30 singers.
So what's the aim of the choir?
It's a sort of more secular choir. We do a lot of sacred choral singing, but this choir has a sort of broader brief, concert brief particularly, and it's also our competitions choir.
Talking of competitions, you've been very successful, certainly the last year or two.
Yes, we have, yeah, and we've had a really good year this year. We've entered 2 competitions, having not entered any for a couple of years. We entered the BBC Songs of Praise School Choir of the Year competition, and we're delighted to be semi-finalists in that. And then we've also entered a newer competition run by Bernardo's, which takes place in London at the Royal Festival Hall, and we're finalists in that one coming up as well.
So this is just a handful of choirs in the whole country, really, that you're competing against, at the very best at your level and age?
Very much so, yes. There are 6 senior school choirs in both those competitions, so yeah, it's fantastic to be down to the final 6.
How do you choose a piece that you think is going to wow the judges? Because you've got 3 that you're going to perform here at the church.
Yeah, we have got 3. For the Songs of Praise, we have to do certain things to fit their criteria. As you'd imagine, with a religious broadcasting programme, we have to do an arrangement of a hymn. So we're seeing the very popular hymn, Amazing Grace, which is known and loved by so many. And then we're doing a more upbeat spiritual piece for our second piece. We're also doing that for Bernardo's, but we thought we'd do something a little bit different and secular. So we're singing When You Wish Upon a Star from the Disney film Pinocchio.
How often do the choir meet and practice?
Well, normally we only rehearse once a week for an hour, but actually we've been so busy with extra rehearsals and performances this term, we seem to be meeting almost daily at the moment.
Emma and Ed, if I can come to you, how is it actually being a member of this choir as the elite of the school?
I think it's a really, really good thing to be a part of because obviously we have the really big chapel choir which has got over 100 people in it, and then there's the smaller chamber choir, and we get to sing more difficult pieces, and it's really fun being able to go to so many concerts and exciting to have the competitions soon as well.
And Ed, what are the challenges, do you think?
Challenges, I think there's a certain responsibility you hold being a member of chamber choir. So for the larger chapel choir, it's to be a real leader in that and try and encourage the younger students to sing their heart out as well.
Is it just a part of life at Oakham School, or do you hope to take it further?
I definitely hope to take it further, so university is the next step for me, so definitely looking for a choir to join there.
Emma, I met you a few years ago now, actually, when you and Morgan were both actually recognised in the composing competition down in Oldburn.
Yeah, that's quite a few years ago now. I'm not too sure what I want to do after school, but I want to definitely keep music as a big part of my life, so playing or singing or maybe composing, but not quite as much.
Many of those in the choir are actually multi-instrumentalists as well.
Yes, very much so, yeah. We've got some of our most talented musicians in the choir. So, yes, many instrumentalists, members of the orchestra, big band, concert band, as well as being excellent singers.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Also online, Just Giving page for Dayton's Dream. This is a Just Giving page that was set up a couple of years ago to help Dayton, who was born at 28 weeks in late September 2012 by emergency caesarean. All to help raise money to build a sensory room for him. And they've managed it. 3-year target in 2 years. They've raised over £15,000. And Jamie Smith is Dayton's dad. How do you feel at that then? How brilliant is that?
We were just so shocked. We couldn't believe it. It took a while to do, but I can't believe we finally got there.
And what sort of events have you been doing? I know there's been a lot in the Stamford area.
Yeah. Well, we started the actual charity in 2013. We started up with a Facebook page called Dayton's Dream Fundraising. And it was sort of like a charity shop online. And people were bidding on things that way or donating and bidding on them. We had a quiz night that raised over £500. Charity night raised over £1,000. We've got the skydive still to go ahead due to weather. We've had no end of stuff.
Are you going to be doing the skydive then?
Elaine, Dayton's mum, and Dayton's friend, they're doing the skydive. I won't be doing that.
Now, over £15,000 to help Dayton. How is it going to help him?
Oh, it's going to help no end. He suffers with muscle tone. He's really stiff. So we're getting a hydrotherapy tub to help with muscle tone. So that should help that way. And with the sensory room, it's just mainly because his brain isn't his age he should be. So it's going to help stimulate his brain in that way. It's going to make no end of difference to him.
So how old is he now?
He's just, 3.5.
And he suffers with cerebral palsy, so
He does. He has something called pentravicular leukomalacia.
Bet that took you a while to say, didn't
it? Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens now then? So you got the over £15,000. It's in partnership with the charity, the Tree of Hope.
It is. What it is with that, they're the main charity holder. So now what we have to do is we go around like getting quotes and everything, and then the Tree of Hope will contact them and order us like all the sensory equipment, the hydrotherapy tub.
And how long do you think that'll take? Do you know?
Hopefully not too long. They're quite good. They are. They're quite quick with everything. So.
Well, wonderful news to wake up to for Dayton and you and the family that you've actually smashed your target in less time than you thought.
Yep. And we can't thank everyone enough for all their help and what they've done.
Thank you so much for being on, Jamie. Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk. This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week. It's the 9th of February today, it's Shrove Tuesday, and on Tuesday Talk today on the show, I'm asking you about signs. Say you're organising a big charity event. You want to let people know about it. You do it through the paper, you put it on the radio, and you put a big banner up. That's fine, isn't it? Put it up a few weeks before so everyone knows when it is and what's happening, just as a reminder as they drive around. What's the problem with that? Well, Rutland County Council are cracking down on this. They're consulting at the moment, and they've issued a draft document and asking people what they think. If those signs were so regulated, they can only be put up 7 days before the actual event. They're also concerned about A-boards pointing you through to the alleyways and the little lanes in our towns as well, and cracking down on those. Ron Simpson joins me from Uppingham First. Morning, Ron. You're really concerned about this for both reasons, really, the charity signs and the A-boards.
Yes, I mean, I think Rutland County Council's trying to address what some say is a real issue, the sort of growth of signs, everything from traffic signs to information signs. So there's genuine intent here, I think. But like all draft policy documents, it's important that people give some feedback on the implications if the report was actually implemented in its current form. There are two particular aspects of concern, certainly here in Uppingham, both of which have been considered by the Town Council and by the community groups, and tonight by Uppingham First, as it happens. The first is charity events. There are national guidelines saying that at the moment, something like the Eyebrook Walk, which is organised by Rotary here in Uppingham, we can put signs up on the highway for up to 28 days before. And indeed, a lot of the people who sign up for the walk and eventually donate to charity see that sign as they drive past it and think, oh yes, I must register, and away we go. Now the draft policy is suggesting that be reduced to 7 days, and the belief here is that would have a significant impact on charity income. So we're certainly sending feedback, and I would like to encourage others to do the same if they agree, that varying the national guidelines, while we understand the need to reduce the number of signs on our roads, this particular example wouldn't be helpful and indeed would be damaging to local charities.
I've got Rutland County Council actually speaking to me later today, so hopefully on the show we'll hear from their opinion tomorrow as to why they've brought this about. But you know, I kind of think, you know, for a charity event, you need to let people know about it. A sign at the side of the road, you know, it's showing the community supporting itself. So I kind of don't understand why it's 7 days when, as you say, the national guideline is 4 times that. Tell us your thoughts on A boards, because obviously Uppingham, you know, has all these lovely narrow lanes and passageways, and you know, you need to encourage as much trade as you can, I guess.
Well, okay. I mean, there is a long-standing issue for some colleagues, particularly citizens who have impaired vision and so on, about inappropriately placed A boards, you know, in the middle of pavements and so on. But it is part of the heritage and culture of Uppingham, as you say, that we have both stock and signs on the footpaths to help, obviously, promote business, but to encourage folk to come into the shops and so on. And I think, having discussed it at the business forum, I think the view there was that having a blanket policy is really in danger of, you know, damaging the character of the place. And if there is a particular problem with a particular sign, then I think we would be encouraging the county council to have a policy whereby, you know, they approach that individual business and say, look, can we talk about where it is and could it be in a better place? So it's the notion of blanket policies that troubles the businesses, and also the danger that when you listen to visitors talking about Uppingham, it is a lovely high street. It's a heritage high street. It's now in the top 5 in the UK in small market towns. It's part of what people see, and therefore we need to be thoughtful. Personally, I would thank the County Council for putting the policy out in draft form, because this does allow everybody to think about the implications and then make appropriate response.
Well, Ron, thank you very much for being on this morning and putting your view. Explain what Uppingham First is for anyone who doesn't know, as we're talking to you on that basis today.
Oh, Uppingham First is the elected community partnership for Uppingham, which brings together businesses, the voluntary sector, county council and town council in a board of 12. Its purpose is to promote the economic development and social development of Uppingham.
So I guess really signs advertising what's in town and what's coming up is an important part of that.
Absolutely, and that's why it is on the board agenda for this evening as well.
Thank you very much for being on. Can anyone come along? Is this a public or private meeting tonight?
No, it's a private meeting of the board, but the minutes are made public. They're on the Uppingham First website.
Lovely. Thank you very much for being on Rutland Radio this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time.
So what do you think? Are there too many signs around? Are they left up for too long? 01572 755 888. What do you think of A boards, advertising signs, pointing you down the passageways? Is that part of the character of our towns?
This is Rutland Radio.
Well, as you may well have heard, in Uppingham Marketplace today, that there is an outdoor pop-up restaurant, I guess, especially for Shrove Tuesday. I'm here with Tony Savage, often known in Uppingham as the Olive Man. You're also the Crepe Man. You're also the Pancake Man today.
And Paella Man sometimes as well.
Yeah. So tell us why you decided to do this then. You obviously had a free day and thought, well, why not?
Well, it's Pancake Day. And, you know, we thought, as Uppingham's got a pitch for charity, we thought we'd do something for Macmillan Cancer Research and do a few crepes, donate some money to charity. And everybody's happy, really. We thought it was a good idea. Maybe in the future we can get it to be a bit of an event so that other local businesses can get involved and donate to charity.
Got to ask you about the most popular flavours. You've got everything from chocolate spread to banana to savoury pancakes like ham and cheese and that kind of thing.
Well, at the moment it's an apple and caramel, which Rob had to go and get his own apples, I'm afraid. So, you know, that seems to be quite popular. Didn't want to let him down, you know what I mean?
And what's the secret to a good pancake then, for anyone who's actually making one tonight?
A nice thick batter. You don't want a runny batter. But we're making thin crepes here today. But if you're making an American-style pancake, then you want a nice thick batter so it sits well, doesn't spread too far, and you've got a nice sort of like 4 centimetre, whatever it is, pancake.
Can you use the first one?
I always do, because I'm a professional.
Tony Savage, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio. Well done for your efforts. So people can actually come and get these any time between about now and...
And about 4 o'clock, 4:30, because we're here all day. We've pitched up, and it's all good fun, you know. So come along, get your pancakes. Part's going to cancer research. So bear in mind, it's not all going in my skyrocket. So, you know, please come along.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
I'm Ben, Hattie, Maddie, Jasmine, Nicholas, Maisie, Saren.
And tell us about today for you. What's it all been about?
Well, we're doing a Safer Internet Day and we're focusing on how we can play our part in making a better internet.
So how can you do that?
You can try and find out how you could help people if they're in a situation that's not very nice.
So is the internet quite a dangerous place then?
If you use it incorrectly, it can be, but if you're safe from the internet and you know how to use it, it can be a great place.
I guess you've all grown up with computers, so you just see this as a part of everyday life, no?
No.
You don't use a computer out of school? Do you not have one at home?
I do, but I don't use it.
Why do you not use it?
I prefer to play on the iPad or to watch TV.
What do you think a computer can do for you? What are good things that it can do?
Well, you can go on to like Google and it will help you with your homework. You can play games. If like you're bored, you can search things up. You can like go on good apps, chat with your friends, like with Skype and everything, and message them and like just kind of enjoy like electronics.
A computer's all for playing games, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, what sort of games?
Angry Birds and Candy Crush and Bubble Witch.
You say they're not all for playing games?
No, because sometimes you might like to email someone or like do work on them, and they're not all for games. Because adults might like to do some work on them or like research.
What's the theme for this year then?
Play your part in a better internet.
And what does that mean, do you think?
Well, I think it means how can you help make the internet a better place.
So what are the things that you can do?
If somebody's being mean to you, you could tell an adult, block them, but you never comment back because it could lead to dangerous things.
Should children be scared about using computers, do you think?
I don't think they should, because a computer, just as long as you don't get into the wrong hands with people, is a harmless thing.
Thanks for joining us at Rutland Radio and celebrating Safer Internet Day.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Mr. Slack, could we just catch up with you as to how this all works? You've got 4 Year 6 classes here?
Indeed, yes. We've got 13 people in each team. They've got to run to the flipping zone, which is next to the river today, and they've got to flip once, and they've got to flip again, and then they've got to run back and pass over the frying pan and the intact pancake.
You've actually got some students who aren't here, all for a very good reason, actually. This is really exciting.
Yes, indeed. They're at a national singing final competition in London for Bernardo's. So we're missing about 20 children today, but it's for a good cause, so we'll let them off.
I see you've got your trainers on.
Indeed.
Are you feeling competitive?
It's purely for the mud today, unfortunately. I won't be competing, but we'll see.
Mrs. Redding, this is your first time here doing this. Have you any tips for your class?
Well, I think my class are quite strong runners anyway, so I've got lots of faith in them and we don't need too many tips.
And they're fairly even. So each of them has to run with it, then go to the flipping zone. flip and back. Mr. Spritton, we're kind of midway through the action here. All the teachers shouting for their classes, really hoping that they are the one that's going to win.
Well, we're really hoping to reclaim our title in 6HB, but well, I think we're making some ground, but I have to say Mr. Slack's class is doing very well. Mrs. Squares are in the lead, I think. It's all to play for.
Are really powering out on the sprint. That seems to be the way that all four classes think they're going to win this, by running the fastest. So, Miss Square's class, how did you manage to actually get that victory, would you say?
Oh, just our quick wit, our quick speed, and smiling all the way.
It's over in a flash, isn't it? It really is.
It's really quick.
What do you put it all down to then?
Well, I put it down to our amazing skill of running and flipping pancakes.
And what are your favourite flavours of pancakes?
Caramel! I love caramel, yeah.
Chocolate.
I love having maple syrup on mine. Caramel, vanilla, and chocolate, and then there are many more.
Well, well done on being the victors. Do you get a golden pancake or something like that?
We should get an award, you know, the top pancake flipping award. Definitely.
Well done.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Okay, my name is Tony Mathias, councillor for Rutland County Council, Oakham South East Ward, and portfolio holder for the Environment, Transport and Highways.
First of all, could you explain how this came about? Why does it need to be debated as far as the council's concerned and regulated?
There is an existing policy, but it dates back to 2009. I live in Oakham and I see the amount of signs that are on the pavements and on the fences of the bypass and the like. And I think it makes the town look very cluttered and untidy. And I think we need to try and find some way of making the whole place look a little bit better.
The national guideline says that they advise local authorities, and it very much depends on which area of the country you live in, that possibly you could have signs actually out up to 28 days. You're consulting as to whether 7 days would be appropriate leading up to the event. Some people say that might be a bit short.
And they may be right, and it's part of the consultation process that we're undertaking, is to establish people's views on that. I think, though, from a personal point of view, I think signs lose a little bit of their impact the longer they're up. And much depends upon the sign itself. Is it legible? Can you actually read it if you're driving down the road? Is it distracting your attention from the road? So there's a lot of matters to be discussed.
And what would you say to charity and community groups who obviously want to promote what they're doing, be it a sale, be it some kind of dramatic performance, and they're thinking the council's not going to allow us to actually put signs up anymore? That's not true, is it?
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, we're not saying there should be no signs. What we're saying is we should have an element of control over how long they are put up for and where they're put up. But it was never our intention, nor would it be, to see all signs removed. And I think there is a serious case for charitable enterprises for them to be able to advertise what they're doing. I think it can be a draw to the town, people spend money and so on. So it's a very, very important aspect, subject to discussion.
What about the commercial signs? People often, you would assume, and I don't have any proof for this, but they might see a sign for a certain company and thought, well, I've got a company in the area, I'd like to put a sign up. I'll just stick it up and see what happens.
Yeah, I think this is part of the problem, is that signs almost breed, and I think there's competition. Oh, if they've got a sign, I need a sign. There are notable retailers in the town who just don't need signs at all, or don't use signs, and rely perhaps on their shop fronts and the goods they're selling to tell the story for them.
What about those who are hidden away down the passageways in Uppingham and Oakham particularly, and even in the villages actually? I guess there are businesses who want to actually point an arrow and say, we're here and this is what we do.
Now, that is one area which I think organisations such as the Oakham Town Partnership and Oakham Town Council have made very valid comments, which is there an improved form of signage that the council can help with, or maybe the Oakham Town Partnership could fund for such things? It might reduce the reliance on A-frames, but give people good direction from car parks and other places. So I think that idea has a lot of merit.
So what you're saying is, instead of everyone having their own A-board, you can maybe have one sign that has various, these companies are all this way, these businesses, these attractions are all pointing this way?
I think subject to the size of where they could be positioned, it's an idea. I still think there's merit on retailers having A-frames as well. It's just a question of how they're positioned on the highway, are they insured in case people fall over them. We need to take into consideration access groups like the Rutland Access Group. So there are still a lot of questions to answer, and I'd be really keen on hearing it from anybody who has got any comments on this, whether they're a retailer, a charity, or a general member of the public.
So how can people get in touch, and how long does the consultation last?
Well, the consultation will probably go on for, I think, about another 3 or 4 weeks. Best way to contact us is in writing on the email address highways@rutland.gov.uk.
That's nice and simple. highways@rutland.gov.uk. And Councillor
Absolutely.
Tony Mathias, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio and explaining what's happening. There's all kinds of rumours about this one, and you know, people, I guess, do want to know where everything is, but they don't want everything cluttered up, as you say.
Indeed. And thank you for the opportunity, Rob.
This is Rutland Radio.
Well, firstly, Tim Brooke-Taylor, thank you very much for coming to Stamford. Is this your first time in town?
I think I came here 45 years ago, but I can't swear to that. But I was pleasantly surprised to find it unchanged, in the good sense of the word.
Now, tonight's show has been very much about looking back over your career. Just looking at some of your achievements, there's staggering things that people might not know. Films you've directed. We see you front of camera, and that's kind of the public perception as to what you do, and there's an awful lot of that as well.
Yeah, well, I've been very lucky to be going into various areas, and I think a lot of it is luck. And I meet or perform with some people who are so brilliant, and you think, oh, they're going to be the biggest stars, and you don't hear of them again, and that is just sheer luck. And things have dropped into place at the right moment, at the right time, and if there is a God, thank him for me.
We think of, obviously, the Goodies, which I guess made your name, although obviously you've been on TV for some time before then. We see Bellardi around these parts, obviously, by Rutland Water.
Yeah.
It was quite an interesting combination of talents, really, the three of you.
Well, yes, we were very different people, so we were able to play totally different parts, which are fairly true to what we were in a way, except I hated my character. But it was a way of, whatever we were talking about, I could represent the right wing, Graham the dodgy middle-of-the-road person, and Bill the revolutionary. But we were very good friends, so we were able to get on together at the same time. It was terrific to be able to do that without changing everything.
And you had question and answer here as well. What questions do people want to know that you don't tend to give away in the evening?
There's quite a lot about, I'm sorry I haven't a clue, and how much is prepared or written or whatever, and most of it, there's a setting to it, but we play around within it, and of course with editing you can edit things out, which makes it look even better. It's one of those things that, I don't know, with work generally, as I said this evening, you've got to basically do what you think is funny rather than what you think ought to be funny, and that was the danger always earlier on. But if you're encouraged with other people, you bounce off each other and you make each other laugh, that's it.
Tim Brooke-Taylor, thank you very much for joining us in Stamford tonight.
It's a pleasure, and I've just received a glass of wine. Good health.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Charlie Smallman, thank you very much for agreeing to do this, and also, you know, for bringing these top comedians. I mean, I don't know whether you drove,
I
you drove the minibus.
I personally brought them. No, I didn't. I didn't personally bring them, sadly. My lovely driver, Des, he drove us here in a lovely Leicester Comedy Festival branded car.
But this is the first time, actually, that Rutland has hosted one of the Leicester Comedy Festival events, I think.
I've heard. But I'm glad that you have. We're having a good time. We're having a good time, aren't we, boys?
Yeah, having a really good one. Yeah. What's your impression of the audience tonight? Because you've been trying to kind of work out where the Rutland audience sits.
I feel like the Rutland audience have money in bank accounts. You know, they've just got like a little sneaky 50 thou squirreled away here and there. They got very angry when I suggested they bought tights from Marks and Spencer's when actually it was John Lewis. So I think that is the measure of the people of Rutland. And one lady has lived here all her life, and she says it's the best place to live ever. I mean, I don't know if that's true.
It's been written in the papers, yeah.
Oh, it's been written in the papers? Was that Rutland's local paper?
No,
like Never Leave?
Nationally.
Oh, nationally?
We have been, yeah.
Oh.
And Stamford as well.
And Stamford, well, you can't argue with that.
So, obviously this is a charity night as well. This is all about raising money for Warning Zone over in Leicester. But the whole Leicester Comedy Festival, it just takes over the city, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's really, really good. If you haven't been before, I'm urging you, please just buy tickets for a show, any show. Take a punt on someone. You'll find stuff that you wouldn't have thought to have seen. It's absolutely brilliant. It's really nice. For me, it's the best comedy festival outside of the Edinburgh Festival. So, yeah, buy tickets to all the shows.
So if people are listening to this, like the morning after, they have missed a fantastic night.
Yeah, if you're listening to this the morning after, gutted, you loser. I can't believe you weren't here. It's been so nice. It's been so nice to meet a couple of high sheriffs I think I might take them home with me. One of them is looking at me right now. Hey! Hi, Joe. He wears his little tights and his little ruffles. It's so cute. It's a what? A jabbo. The ruffle on his neck is called a jabbo.
Thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, babe. Enjoy your breakfast, everyone.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Neil Darwin, Chief Executive of the Greater Cambridge, Greater Peterborough Local Enterprise Partnership.
Now, we're hearing, obviously, that the economy is, on an upward slant. It seems to be a struggle. It's nowhere near as fast the rise than the fall seemed to be a few years ago. But how is the region doing generally?
We do have a good economy. It's pretty clear that we're in a better position than many other parts of the country. But we do have some significant blockages, principally around infrastructure, skills, and increasingly housing as well. Really big blockages that do stop businesses doing their best work.
Now, this is obviously a council event. They're obviously keen to stimulate the economy because it's good for them and good for the county as well.
Yeah, it works both ways now with the way local government finance is working, and we've got a very positive council in Rutland that do want to make sure they support their business community to best effect.
What other particular challenges would you say for a rural county like this?
At the moment, the biggest difficulty is making sure that we do have their priorities on our longer list. In an area like ours, Cambridge and Peterborough shout very loud, but actually the most growth comes from small medium enterprises based in places like Oakham and Uppingham.
I guess it is, the fact that the small businesses can adapt quicker than the large ones.
Absolutely. They know what they want, they can articulate it far quicker, they don't have all the processes, and quite simply, it's an easier conversation.
So what help can you actually give to businesses?
We've got a range of opportunities, from grants and loans to businesses that support their growth, right the way through to helping develop new infrastructure approaches, working with government and blocking issues facing skills, those sorts of issues. Obviously, migration in this part of the country is a big ticket item. We need to make sure that we do get the right skills in that we can't necessarily find in our own communities. So we need to make sure we don't block those off.
Hello, it's Paul Phillips, and I'm the Director for Development and Economy and the Places Director at Rutland County Council.
So how is business broadly doing in Rutland? That's a very big question to answer.
Yes, and of course different businesses have got different views in relation to that and dependent upon which sector, but we've just done a business survey across all of the local businesses, and it's really good at the moment. A lot of our businesses are looking at expanding, they want to grow, they want to employ more people, they're looking at developing whilst they're within the area. We know we've got a lot of micro businesses that sort of 0 to 9 employees, a lot of small business staff there. The Oakham Enterprise Park that we've now fully developed has really filled up with those micro businesses, so we're really happy with the work that we're doing with them, and we're going to continue to do that work. So we've got some land that we've got there which we're looking for ideas and opportunities from the public and from businesses that want to develop. So one of the things that I would say is, if members of the public want to contact us with a view to expanding the business or just setting up a small office space business, then please do, because the Oakham Enterprise Park, albeit it's full at the moment, is still up for business because we've got 2 big areas there that we can realistically look to build what's required. We've also looked at what we've got going for the future. We know that we need more commercial land going forward for the future, so we're currently consulting on our local plan, which takes the building of not only houses and commercial premises from 2026 to 2036. So comments from anybody in relation to that are welcome at the moment, because that's where we're going to define where we're likely to put new housing, where we're likely to put new commercial sites.
You're obviously consulting on council tax at the moment, and it looks like things will increase. Very much like other authorities neighbouring, you can't hold everything at that base level for forever. But how does that affect businesses? How are business rates likely to fare?
Well, business rates, there's obviously changes in the government's perspective in relation to business rates, and ultimately there will be a funding formula come back from government around the business rates. We as an authority know that we have to grow to a certain extent to maintain our own sustainability. I think we're a small authority. It works really well for the people of Rutland. So, the people here do have a genuine choice and a genuine view on what takes place in their area. And we want to keep Rutland County Council as sustainable as we possibly can. So part of the business rates and part of the council tax is maintaining a local council for local people. I think that's really important going forward. how the business rates formula will work out for the future for us, we know that we need to grow our businesses, and we need to know to grow our housing growth. And I think that will support the economy and will support Rutland to continue to provide what I think are excellent services for the people of Rutland.
What kind of businesses broadly make up the county? We think obviously tourism is big business in the summer particularly. Obviously farming is something that the whole county is built on.
We've got really strong and vibrant tourism. So since I've been here 2 years now, our tourism income has gone from 95 to 105 million in those 2 years. So that's an annual income from that, and that's only growing from strength to strength. So the tourism sector is really good. Our manufacturing sector with companies like Rutland Plastics are also growing and is a really, really strong sector within the community. But like I said, we've got around about 19,000 employees across Rutland. The bulk of those sit though within small micro businesses of a wide variety and a wide range that sit across Rutland. So you've got really diverse industries such as Education City that provides both international and national education facilities, and they employ now, I think they're nearly up to 100 staff that range from internet development through to customer and call centre staff. So we've got some fantastic businesses in Rutland, and we need to keep helping progress those and move them further across the authority.
Paul Phillipson, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio.
Thank you very much. Nice to speak to you.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Tim Clough, I'm editor of the Rutland Local History and Record Society.
Now, earthquakes in Rutland date back a lot further than a couple of years at Easter time that we felt.
Well, that's certainly true, yes. There's a man called Thomas Barker in the middle of the 18th century who made very detailed records of climate and weather and all sorts of natural phenomena that he could, everything that he could discover. One of the instances of earthquakes that he recorded was the great earthquake that took place in Lisbon and caused huge damage there. And the little detail that he records is that the water in ponds in this area rippled with the effects of all the tremors that had come all the way across from Iberia, and could be felt a huge distance away from the epicentre.
So in a way it could have been one of the first studies of its time.
Well, in a way, yes. I mean, I'm sure there were lots of other people of that scientific turn of mind at that time who were all interested in recording as many events as they could and trying to understand how the Earth worked, if you like.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Paul Denton, and I work as a seismologist at the British Geological Survey.
Now, you came in to see us as the Rutland tremors happened.
Yeah.
You've told Oakham CV today this kind of at any time, and how can this equipment here actually help? Why is it here in the museum?
Well, it's to help people understand what earthquakes are and how scientists measure them. So most of the earthquakes that we actually will detect with this instrument will be ones that have happened thousands of kilometres away in the Pacific Ocean. And we expect to record maybe 1 or 2 a month, magnitude 7 or so earthquakes.
That's quite big then.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we only hear about earthquakes on the news if people are killed or injured during them. But for every earthquake that causes damage and injury, there'll be maybe 5 or 10 bigger earthquakes that happen in such remote places that the only people that know about them are seismologists.
Now, what about the tremors that we had here? How many was it? 4, 5, 6? Depends on who you actually...
I mean, the seismologists actually recorded a total of 9 in that cluster. There was only about 3 or 4 of them that were strong enough to be felt by people. And having a cluster of earthquakes in such a small area is unusual, but it's not unheard of. There was a cluster of about 200 earthquakes in Manchester about 10 years ago, very small earthquakes. So they do happen.
And what about the children's questions today? They clearly have quite an understanding of how the world works.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because these Year 5-6 students have all been studying natural hazards as a topic this term, and some of the questions and responses that they gave were spot on. I mean, some of the questions I couldn't actually answer because they were so good, but they'd obviously been doing a lot of learning this term, which was great.
Things like the biggest, how big can an earthquake be, where we're more likely to find them, and could there be another one in Rutland?
Well, that's the question people always ask, and unfortunately we can't predict when earthquakes will happen. We just know statistically how frequently they happen in somewhere like the UK. So statistically, at some point there will be some more earthquakes. We just don't know when or exactly where they're going to happen.
This is obviously quite an educational tool, some of it aimed at children, where they can make their own earthquake by jumping up and down on the mat. But you've got a seismograph here as well that's recording exactly what's happening in Oakham.
Yes, I mean, the seismograph here is actually one that we designed specifically for use in schools. So it's based on a 100-year-old design. But the idea is, this is mainly for secondary schools. The idea is that it's a very visual design, so physics teachers can use it to teach about how the instrument works, which parts move and which parts stay still. But it is sensitive enough, as I say, to pick up earthquakes from the other side of the world, as long as there aren't any kids in the museum jumping up and down next to it.
This is Rutland Radio.
Erin, Isabella, TJ, Daniel.
Now, tell us what you've actually seen here. We can hear there's a lot of noise in the background. There's a lot of children from Oakham C of E here today.
Well, we made our own earthquakes by jumping, and we found out that there can be small earthquakes called tremors and big earthquakes, just earthquakes.
Do you remember the Oakham earth tremors that we had?
Yeah, I did.
What did it feel like?
It felt a bit funny because I didn't know what it was. My mum thought it was a lorry driving into the house, but at first I thought it was something different, but then I realised it was an earthquake.
And what was the best question that anyone asked here today?
How long have you had this job for?
And what do you think the answer is?
5 years.
Do you think it's important that we measure it here in Oakham?
Yes, because otherwise we wouldn't know what we'd have in Oakham and if they were earthquakes or not.
What do you think about earthquakes and stuff? Is it quite frightening?
Well, yeah, now that I've had like a proper learn of it, it's really quite frightening what could happen to so many places.
We learned today actually that Oakham could have an earth tremor or earthquake at any time.
Yeah, we did.
And what does that mean to you?
It doesn't scare me that much, but I don't really know. It doesn't really scare me.
And we're not in an area where there's lots and lots of earthquakes though, are we?
No.
Do you know what sort of places those are?
Japan and America.
So will you be coming here to try out the exhibition here at the museum?
Probably.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
I'm Dan Asker. I'm a level 2 student at Stamford College, and I really enjoy pastry.
I'm Sophie Rogers, and I really enjoy front of house.
I'm Esme Robertson, and I'm a level 2 student doing cooking at college, and I really enjoy doing pastry too.
So when you signed up to do this at college, did you know there was a restaurant?
I did. I don't know about you guys, but yeah.
Did that affect your decision about coming here?
Yeah, definitely. It gave a positive image on it, and it encouraged us to choose it.
You look really busy today. Is this usually as busy as you are?
Yeah, this is, we open on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and this is a regular day here.
So what exactly is your role today?
Today I'm in front of house rotation today, so I'm helping manager in the restaurant, serving the food and just looking after all the customers, helping out because we have a shop as well and a full bar and barista. So there's a lot to do, but it's a good team, so it's really enjoyable, especially when it's busy.
So do you do something different each day?
The menus change each 2 weeks, but we have different roles specified on a rota that we go on, and just changes up the assignments.
Are you into pastry? No, you're into...
I'm into front of house.
Front of house, but today you're doing...
Today I'm in pastry, yeah. So this morning I've been preparing the desserts for service, and now we've just moved into the dessert section to serve them.
So what kind of dishes are you doing?
Big variety of dishes, from all sort of traditional stuff, but we change it so it's more modernised and that. There's currently things on the menu, like there's a roasted pepper soup,
there's chicken Caesar salad, there's coq au vin and salmon, and there's all the pastry. There's always a wide variety of dishes for everyone, really, and we always get, there's a mixture of customers we've got people that are in their 90s, and then we've had a little baby before, so we do have a big variety of customers that come through.
Yeah, it's all homemade. We have recipes that we go against, and everything's made daily on production days, and we carry over stuff that we can, but the majority of it is homemade.
And in terms of the menus, who suggests those?
One of the chefs, our main production chef, he comes up with the menu, and then our pastry chef does the desserts menu, and it just combines, and that's what we do today.
And is it best to book?
Yeah, definitely. The fine dining evening is amazing. Wednesdays we have a deal, and Thursdays and Fridays are just the same, really, but without the deal. But yeah, it's definitely good food.
And even if you can't pop in for a meal, there's always the little cafe and stall as well, right?
Yeah, we have a shop that's opened in the mornings where we sell fresh bread and patisserie stuff, and also we have the sort of little mini cafe with a whole big coffee machine and that, so we do get a massive rush most mornings from most of the staff coming in for their morning dose of coffee, so it does get quite busy.
And it all counts towards your final grade, I'm assuming?
Yes, all that we make goes towards assignments and assessments, and that gives us the pass or fail at the end of the year. So, it all counts towards it.
And you really enjoy it, right, everyone?
Yeah, it's great.
Rutland Radio's Best Bits on the podcast.
My name is Joan Beeson, and I'm the president of the Leicester Literary and Philosophical Society.
So that obviously looks after earthquakes, then?
Well, not necessarily. We have lectures on all sorts of topics. By philosophy, it meant moral philosophy in the 1800s, which is science. So we have everything except for religion and politics. And we have a group of people who meet twice a month during the winter months to hear lectures on a variety of topics. In 1930, approximately, Henry Bennett left some money to the Lit and Phil to be used for research. That was the only directive. So at that time, the council, which is the committee of Lit and Phil, the council decided to invest the money and then to use the interest to further research projects. And several PhD students applied for grants and so on. But in recent years, you will perhaps know, there's very little interest in deposits. Consequently, they decided now is the time to use the money. And so we've used it to buy 2 seismographs or seismometers, one for here in Rutland and one for the New Walk Museum in Leicester. And that is hopefully to encourage research among younger people, because the British Geological Survey have already put this equipment into over 400 secondary schools to try to encourage scientific interest.
And obviously to hopefully understand more about why earthquakes happen, I imagine.
Oh, yes. The big project in secondary schools, though, is initially to try to encourage research in science, but obviously in seismology as well. But anything that will interest people, children, particularly in finding out things, is invaluable.
So how long will it be here at the Rutland County Museum?
Oh, well, forever, as it were. It's a permanent, it's a gift, and that is it.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk.